All right, what is up, everyone? How is everyone doing? Let me go ahead and unmute Flaming Strike. Thank you, everyone, for letting me know that the chat was wrong, or not the chat, sorry, the game was wrong. And the title. That was the one thing I didn't change, go figure. I always forget that every time. It doesn't matter when I'm streaming, how important I'm supposed to be streaming something. I always forget the title out of everything. How's it going, Flaming Strike?
Streamer.
Yeah, well, the thing is, so for me, I have to open up, multiple programs. Like, I have to open up OBS, Pretzel Rocks, Restream Chat, and my chatbot. And, in between all those, you always end up forgetting something, every time, so. But I'll just have to get used to it. Eventually, I'll get it right every time. It just takes time, right? Just like combos.
Depends which one.
You know what it's like. Yeah, Princess Pearl, it definitely, I always forget every time. It's crazy. So, Flaming Strike, how have you been doing, man? It's been a minute since I've had you on the podcast. I mean, I've moved twice now since I had you on the podcast. So, how have you been?
Actually moved house or what?
Moved places. I was living in an apartment, now I'm in a house, but still streaming, still on that grind, just trying to figure out exactly what I want my content creation to be, especially considering what we're going to talk about today, and kind of the fate of MK and what's been going on. But how have you been with fighting games? How has the journey been for you? Because I think pretty much a lot of people know what I've been doing since they haven't changed much in the game, but what about you?
Well, to be honest, I kind of given up on the game as well lately, because it kind of feels repetitive in my eyes, as in the same patterns, the same matchups, some characters you just can't get in, other characters you do very well against. It's just very little room for creativity, and that's kind of the end of it.
Yeah, so you're kind of in the same. Basically, kind of just to run down really quickly, anyone who's in the chat or just kind of stopping by, I've stopped playing MK11 just because of the myriad of issues that I personally had with MK11. And I want to reiterate to everyone in the chat and everyone watching this podcast, MK11 is just a different game. I'm not saying it's a bad game. I'm not saying that the other games that I've played are better. I personally think they're better. I think that I think the only good thing that MK11 does is that it allows a pseudo footsie game. But I'll get into that later. Basically, long story short, I've stopped playing the game. I've moved over to Street Fighter. I played a little bit of MKX, but I just can't bring myself to go back and play MKX, just because I want to get better, and I just feel like MKX isn't going to teach me that. So that's kind of where I'm at, but let's talk a little bit more about Flaming Strike and what Flaming Strike kind of thinks about, or what he's done since I stopped playing and he stopped playing. So what have you been doing?
Well, to be honest, I kind of hopped onto all accounts just for fun on MK, and it's the same old, same old. It doesn't matter what rank or what level of people you're facing against. It's the same old wake up system. It's you're pressuring the guy, but on the other hand, you're kind of being punished for doing so. So I'm like, eh.
Yeah. So you're still playing MK11? You're still playing the...
Very rarely. If I'm
Okay.
really bored, I'm feeling the urge to play something, then I'm just gonna hop onto the game for 10 minutes, then I get bored of again, and then I just hop off. That's kind of the routine I'm going through. I've been looking at maybe Guilty Gear Strive or something, but I don't know. That game kind of looks clunky to me, and the visuals are kind of meh. I'm not sure.
Yeah, a lot of people don't play MK, or a lot of people don't play other fighting games. I've heard they simply don't play it because of the art style. Like, I've heard that people won't play because I'm currently playing Street Fighter. Spoilers, but a lot of people are like, they don't like. Nexus told me the reason he never touched Street Fighter was just simply, even though it's like a bigger scene, is just simply because of the artwork. Like, he doesn't like how the artwork looks, and well, that's what I heard from him, but he personally doesn't like how the artwork looks, so he just wouldn't want to learn it, apparently. Like, he just feels like MK is more visually appealing. So is that kind of how you feel about Strive? Because at least that's what I've heard with Strive.
Like Strive is kind of like MK now, but like on steroids, in that sense that like there's no neutral aspect at all. It's just like rushdown, which I like. It's like, I don't know. There's so much going on screen. It's quite like chaotic at sometimes to follow. You know, like there's so
Yeah.
many stuff happening. I mean, of course you will adjust over the course of the game's time, but I don't know.
Okay.
It just feels it's like a typical anime fighting game that people that watch a lot of anime would love,
Yeah.
but it feels like kind of too cheesy in my opinion. Like with the voice acting, the design of the characters, kind of, you know.
Just not not visually appealing to you,
Yeah,
or
well,
just the whole
yeah.
thing, just the kind of the culture behind the game.
Eh, I don't know. I can't really put my finger on it. Like it really looks amazing, like visually wise, as in it's
Oh, okay.
entertaining to watch, but
Yeah.
at the same time it feels off, if you get what I mean. I'm not sure like how I can put this in the right way, but just I think it'll be fun for me to play for like 10 minutes, and then I'll be like, yeah, this is kind of, I don't know. Oh, by the way, to respond to Holiday's quote on no MK news for E3, that's correct.
Yeah.
I think two options, or there will be two possible scenarios. Option one, they're gonna completely drop the ball, because I heard that Warner Brothers is like selling some IPs, or like some of their studios or whatsoever.
Yeah.
So the end of MK11 probably, or maybe they're just gonna like release or drop a comeback pack 3 over a few weeks or months, just to attract some new players or returning players, and then those players will quit again after a week or week and a half or 2 weeks, and they'll be in the same mess, I guess.
Uh. Yeah. I mean, the thing that will always come down to me with like MK11 is like, Tom Brady has said this several times, and I agree with him. Like, the game needs like a complete over. There's just like, it always comes down to like, you look at the top characters in the game, like Jackie, Joker, Fujin, and then you look at Melina and Frost, and it's like, they're not, like, how are they in the same game? Like, it just doesn't. To me, it just doesn't make any
To
sense.
say that the character, like the game, like is for like 80% decided since the character select. Like if you pick, like for example, if I pick Liu Kang and you pick Cetrion, the game kind of has already, been decided in a way, like the matchup points.
Well, what's weird about that is, like, the thing is, and this has been mentioned too, is like, you go back MK9, it was like that, where, if I pick Jade and you pick Cabal, it was over. Like, Jade was not winning that matchup, like, ever. And
You mean right now, like, use a Joker against a Liu Kang, the reach, like use a Cabal against a
yeah,
like a
I'm
Braga, you're fucked. Like,
well, I'm wondering if like the reason why that is because I think, like, when you go back and you play MK9, like, MK9 was more fun to play. Like, when I was playing Melina in MK9, like, I actually could do shit, But in this game, like, because her teleport was like plus 20 on hit, like, it was ridiculous. But in this game, it's like her teleport's like plus 5 on hit. So, like, Melina is not doing the same thing as Cetrion when it comes to teleporting, So, like, I'm wondering if, like, that's what it is just, even though the tier list um looks like it might be better just because everything's been toned down. It's not as enjoyable to play or as fun to play, so like you kind of end up in this situation where you're playing a character that's not that good, or you're playing a character that might be good, but then they lose to a character and you don't really have any outs. That's the only thing I could think of, because MK9 had those matchups. They had like those ridiculous matchups where like you just could there was just nothing you could do, or a very little amount that you could do. Like even if Jade got in against like Cabal was gonna like basically infinite her. So I don't know, honestly. My big thing is like I just hope like they figure out they've got to rework the characters. I feel that's the only way it's gonna get fun, or rework the moves or something. Like what would you want from Liu Kang? Like if you were fighting like Joker, what would you want?
Something that gives me more reach. I don't know, I always have to get close in. There's an age of the character, so I don't
Okay.
know. Like he has a teleport, but it's a slow startup, so that doesn't help. It can be neutral jumped, so I'm gonna get punished every single time. There's nothing much I can think of. Like that's the issue. Like if every character has the same tools or same reach, then there's no diversity. There's no uniqueness. But at the same time, you have to make it so that's kind of like always have to make like a 50-50%, because it's like you kind of need to make it fair in a sense between all characters. And that's what I hate about tier lists. I'm kind of glad that I'm like having a top tier, but at the same time, it's not really carrying me as well. Like they're like
Yeah.
matchups like Joker, I'm just can't get in. Cabal, same story. Jackie, you know what she does. Sadron, pushback, chip damage, pushback. Yeah, I can't get in for like 90% of the match. So I'm like, yeah, really great game. Like, and then people telling me, well, you need to laugh, you need to get better, but there's only limited options you can do. You can spend 9,000 hours in the lab. But it's a whole different thing when you have to go up against a player with a main Cetrion for like 5,000 games, and yeah, good luck trying to get in. And
Yeah.
then for me, like my honest opinion, I kind of hope that this game kind of dies as soon as possible, and then we can wait for like a new installment over 2 or 3 more years, because it's not gonna happen soon. Trust me on that. Like there's always has been like 4 to 5 years between each game, so.
Well, the one problem that I've always run into personally is that well, I don't know if it's a problem. It's more like I think MK will always have the issue that there's a set group of players that came in at MK11, and then there's some players that played games before MK11, and and this kind of goes to the whole podcast that we're talking about today. Like they played traditional MK, like we played MK, like I consider MKX and below like they're vastly different than MK11. Like MK11 is I don't even recognize it compared to the other two games. Those games were way more wild and way
Of
more
course, you're gonna
crazy.
start to compare. Like, let us say that you played all your life like Tekken, right? Tekken 1 to Tekken 7. Of course, you're gonna like compare each one of them like to each other. And for example, you know how Tekken plays, right?
Yeah,
What if they release Tekken 8 and it has like the rush down aspect?
yeah, it's
I
like
mean,
2D or something.
yeah, like people will start complaining because it's not what the franchise is known for. It's the same with MK. MK has been known to like go back to MK1, MK2, 3, 4. It's always has been rushed down, except for maybe like Deadly Alliance, Armageddon, that kind of playstyle. But then again, there's a reason why they haven't sold that many copies back in the day. So, in my
Yeah,
opinion, they should like stick true to the roots of MK and maybe make it like an MKX version, but less broken, as in like not like 1 million ways to open your opponents up, but at the same time, like pick up the pace, like speed it up a little bit, and have like extensive combos, and I think everyone will be happy. Like in MKX, like if you pick Setchun right now, right? I put her in MKX, she's dead in 2 seconds. Why? Because she's slow, whatever. Put her in MK11, no one else has the tools to deal with her unless you have like a teleport or like a Jade who just every projector can go through her. Like that's the issue. Like the majority of the calls just don't have the tools to deal with her, and that's what
Yeah.
makes her broken. I believe that the character isn't that broken at all. But it's kind of like a poor like distribution of tools among the roster. In my eyes, like Saturn has like everything, and then like Baraka, he has like bad frames and just limited options. Pick jacks against her, you're screwed from the beginning. And it's like that's what I meant by repetitiveness. Like you get into a game and you already know what's gonna happen. She's gonna backdash, throw boulders, start to do the earthquake thing, 1-2 into the tornado, push back, whatever. Like, and that's what I meant by repetitiveness, because there's no like every Cetrion, every Liu Kang, every Jax, every Scorpion, they're all gonna do the same moves in the same manner and the same pattern, and that's what's boring to me. Like it's always in the same way, and I don't blame the players for playing that way because they're limited in their choices, they're limited in their creativity, and the game doesn't allow us to do any other setups, any other moves, or any other mix-ups. It's just what it is. Kinda a watered down version of MKX when it comes to creativity.
Yeah.
How would you feel if you have to play a game like have you ever played Diablo?
No, I haven't, unfortunately.
Like basically it's like the game is like fun for like the first couple of months or something, and then it
Yeah.
becomes like a chores. And as soon as it starts to become a chores to get better, then you're not enjoying it anymore, and it feels more like a job in the end. Like you feel you have to do this in order to keep up, but you're not doing it out of amusement or out of joy.
Yeah. Well, one of my biggest issues. Actually, it's kind of funny because it's kind of I'm playing Laura, so this doesn't even make any sense. But anyway, so one of my biggest issues that I had with MK11 and it kind of bleeds into MKX, is just simply like I don't know what NRS's deal is with not being able to get characters off of you. Like a lot of people complain about zoning, but the problem that I've always kind of had with like the people who complain about zoning outside of Cetrion's the one exception, I guess. But Cetrion, most of the time, she's playing a mid-screen against you anyway, unless you can't reach, right? Or you have like a bad projectile. But like the problem that I've always had with MK11 is actually kind of like in a weird way, it's the opposite. Like every single time I go Katana or I go Melina, people go Jackie. Like they go Jackie because they know that Jackie can get in and just, hit you with a million staggers and you have to block forever. And like that's what Jackie players like legit will tell you is like, just keep blocking, bro. And I'm like, dude, like I'm throwing projectiles at you and you're still trying to jump in on me. Like I can't get you off of me. Like get off of me kind of thing. And that's one thing I like really miss from MKX. Like I really miss that from MKX. Like having armor to get people to like chill. Because that has been the most frustrating thing that I've had with MK11 is like, if someone wants to get in, they're gonna get in. Like with certain characters, like you can't do shit about it. And MKX is just like, nah, dude, you're getting force pushed. Like, if I was, I'm not saying, see, people will always take this out of context, right? Because I'll tell them, hey, I want armor back. And they'll be like, oh, you want Mystic Ermac, 6 frame, EX, gives you health, armor back, where one hit of armor, anti-air. No, dude, I'm not saying that. I just want something that, like, gets you to stop freaking hitting me with forward 3, Jackie's forward 3 every 5 seconds. You know, like I want something besides jump projectile to get you to stop jumping at me, you know? And I don't think toning down Jackie is the answer. I think giving characters some sort of, or maybe like being able to reversal, because I remember that in MKX. Like, I don't know why they took that out. The only thing I can think of is because like backdashes now don't cost stamina. So before, like when they cost stamina, like backdashes were considered invincible because they cost stamina, but like now they don't cost stamina, so I'm assuming like that's why like backdashes aren't invincible because you can't check them. But I don't know.
It's like all over the place. They're trying to please people in so many ways, and they're kind of afraid of the backlash that they will get if they were, for example, nerf Joker and Satria and all the the top tiers and everything. I don't know. Maybe that's the problem. I think their take is it should just like change. There's no communication from their side either. Like when is the last time that we have had a combat cast? They kind of quit like a year ago or something, isn't it?
Yeah, it was over the combat pack and the patch.
Yeah. And then the last patch we got, like everyone was looking forward to it, and then it was basically what 8 lines or something.
Yeah, it was like Shao Kahn buffs or something like that. Yeah.
I mean, that's a kind of an indication to me that they kind of are fed up with the game already. When they have and told us like at the release or like at the game's launch that they're gonna be supporting it much longer, but well, nothing is less true, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm hoping that it's gonna be. I'm hoping that they're either working on a new game or working on a big patch or something. But I think for
working on a new game because it will make them money, of course. But I just hope that they won't make like head towards the same direction as MK11. Otherwise, I won't be even bothered to buy it.
Well, see, that's the thing is like that's actually. Well, before we talk about that, let me go ahead and go over the chat real quick, just to kind of catch up real quick, and then we can go into that. But basically, I'm gonna skip a little bit because I'll skip where Ramitz was asking where you're from. You're from Belgium, right? That's what it says.
That's true.
Yeah. Okay. Holiday was saying that E3 no MK and E3, and she said, however, lots of MK voice actors are posting on Insta that they're working on a WB project, so that's likely a new NRS IP they teased. Okay.
That's not necessarily true. I mean, they can use the same voice actors for different kind of games. Look at Injustice, look at maybe...
Yeah, she said NRS IP, so she's talking about, like...
Yeah.
Anything in NRS.
I thought she meant like, or she was kind of hoping like towards the Mortal Kombat direction. I'm not sure if she's like a fan of the game or the franchise or whatsoever.
I'm actually, weirdly enough, a fan of the franchise. I'm not as big on Injustice, but I will play it if it's the game that's currently out. So hopefully, maybe they'll do like Injustice or the DC or the Marvel game that's been kind of leaked. I don't know if that's gonna be a thing, but I kind of took that with a grain of salt, so. But, Nexus says, loving the podcast, productive so far? Yes, we were just talking about kind of the possible death of MK11. Nexus also says, no announcement about Combat Pack 3 or anything MK related at E3, or the end of Pro Comp, so the game's dead. It is.
Well, the game is dying. Like the last few days that I've like played again, like just casually, just hop on and off. I've encountered like 4 or 5 people the same time in a row, and it takes a while to actually find people. And I'm kind of hoping it stays away. Like it's like a signal to the NRS community or like the studio that like, maybe this game isn't like we made a huge mistake with this game, right? So we need to change things.
Is this on PC? You're saying that you're not seeing players on PC?
Yeah, it's on PC. I only have it on the PC. I don't have a console, so...
Oh, okay. Agree with Strike, it's boring as fuck and game is dead, especially on PC.
like how come, explain this to me, how come that Maximilian dude, you know, the guy who reviews the famous YouTuber, is
Yeah.
hosting a MKX tournament, but not an MK11 one? Because logically, MK11 is the most current one, so therefore a tournament about that game should be hosted, but he chose the MKX one. I mean, doesn't like ring a bell?
Yeah. I mean, I've heard, I mean, apparently even Wong said that, like, he likes MKX over MK11, like, it's just more fun. So, I mean, I don't know
I mean,
what that's
even
about.
Rewind invested a lot of time into MKX again, getting that tournament and whatsoever.
Yeah. Well, the game's ass. The fact that they're going back to MKX busted shit. Yeah, it really that's one of the main reasons, Nexus, that I went to Street Fighter, because the thing about MKX, don't get me wrong, I loved it when I played it, but I'm just gonna be Ermac EX pushing you twice in a row. I just don't really see how that's gonna get me better at fighting games, personally. But I'm not saying that it's not a fun game to play. I think it is. I think it's much more fun than MK11. But if I were to go back, I'd probably play MK11. But oh, what's up, Bobby? Bobby Dark. I'm just gonna call you Bobby Dark. But yeah, the big thing is, I think what it really does come down to is that, and I mentioned this a little bit earlier, there's a lot of players that they jumped in at MK11. So my only kind of issue with all of this is that, are those players going to continue to prop up MK11? Like, are we going to see more MK11 just simply because they're players who jumped into MK11? They don't know, like, I hate to be that guy, but I'm gonna be that guy for a second. They don't know how to block on wake up. And they don't know how to manage their meter. Like, there's gonna be players like that like MK11, so, like, when, you know, people who have played other fighting games prefer that kind of system, they're going to, like, there's gonna be a split in the community. Like, I feel like that's just gonna be a thing.
Well,
So,
what makes more sense to you, like waking up buttons and being rewarded, or waking up buttons,
well,
being knocked on the floor, and then getting punished because you just are pressing buttons?
so here's the thing, Flaming Strike. I agree with you, but the problem is, I'm a traditional player, so, like, it doesn't really, like, the thing is, like, we can talk about that, like, this is kind of the thing that I learned, especially as a streamer. This is the biggest thing I learned as a streamer, is that I think logically, like, you know, resource management, being able to play good footsies, just being able to understand how to block on wake up and when to press buttons on wake up and when not to. I mean, right now we just have people wake up down 2ing you, and that's like a legit strat, you know, on wake up. And down 2ing on hit because, like, they're reading throws, but they probably wouldn't down 2 on hit if you could block it and punish them, you know, kind of thing. So
Kind of doing it as a desperation slash last resort, and they're just like guessing right in that moment, and they keep on doing it in the future because it hasn't been paid off for them in the past. That's
yeah,
how
but
their brain works.
yeah, well, see, that's the thing. See, all this stuff, I agree with you, right? But what it really does come down to, like, to me personally, what it comes down to is that there's going to be players that think that that's all they've seen, right? Like, this is kind of the pro MK11, pro traditional fighting games slash MK. Because even other MK games, you weren't waking up buttons. Like, I mean, you could do it every once in a while, but you weren't doing it very often, right? Like, that just was not, like, you were gonna get you're gonna get hit for 40% or 30% depending on the character if you try to wake up buttons. But the thing is, that's the thing is like there's a lot of players that have moved from like they joined fighting games from MK, so like they only know MK11. So no matter how much we teach them, hey, like this is like not what you're supposed to do in fighting games, they're gonna do it because the game allows them to do it. So like my question is like, is that going to cause the game to last longer just because people like how the game plays that way? If that makes any sense. Because that's kind of like the big issue that I've kind of run into personally. Like I just feel like there's going to be a huge group of people who want MK11 or games to play more like MK11, which I'm sure there's another group that don't like that. I personally don't like that. That game, that's what's caused me to just walk away from the game. So
the way I see things is like the people that enjoy this state right now is like a momentary thing. It's not like a fixed thing into their brain. As soon as they move on to like a different fighting game and they notice they get punished for it, but they might as well like the game more, they're just gonna adapt to the other game. It's just like all based. This is just like a temporary thing. I think that they prefer a playstyle because it's like a way out, like a guaranteed way out of the corner or something.
yeah,
But it's
well,
like,
wake up roll is
but as soon like let us say a 12-year-old is playing the game and he likes like to press buttons whatsoever and just like being rewarded for it, right? And
yeah,
then like 4 years later the new title comes out, but then he's like 16 years old. He's gonna reflect on his past self as like, yeah, I was just pressing buttons. Now I actually want to learn the game, and I see how big of a fool I was to believe I was like any good at the game and that I prefer this way. Because like imagine it has paid off for him, but when someone else does it to him, then he's not gonna enjoy it and he will be thinking like, well, this shouldn't be possible. I should be able to prevent it from happening. I should be able to do something against it. And there's always like a positive and a negative to it. Like, if it pays off for you, it should be paying off for someone else. And then it's gonna start to like contradicting his mindset at some point. And then he's gonna try to go for a game that actually plays right, in my opinion. And being right is like being rewarded for knocking someone else on the floor and not having the advantage when being knocked down.
okay.
I think like people grow over time, and those that still believe that MK11 is still the game to go to, well, all the power to them. But it's not my cup of tea anymore.
Well, I like that you said all of that. I think that's a good thing. I think I need to be more positive personally when like I like that kind of mindset. I think maybe it's like one of those things where like you take a candy. I hate to say it this way, but this is the only thing I can think of. Like you take a candy from like a kid or something and tell them, hey, like if you eat candy all the time, it's gonna make you really sick. And then like as they get older, they kind of appreciate the fact that the candy was actually going to make them sick, and it's kind of like the same thing with this. Like almost every other fighting game doesn't allow you to do what MK11 allows you
I'm
to
gonna
do.
make a different comparison. Like, have you ever played FIFA? Like, just a game, football game?
Yes, I'm very heavily into soccer.
Compare FIFA 1999 and the one now. In 1999, you can actually literally just take your goalkeeper, run across the field and score, basically, and dodging everyone without the use of any stamina.
Yeah,
Compared to the traditional sport right now, everyone's gonna say that shit is ridiculous. Compared to MK11 now, people are gonna say a wake up on jump is ridiculous. It shouldn't be possible.
yeah,
Like imagine jumping through someone's leg, like his animation, not being clipped by it, and then getting a free punish on you. Like it doesn't make sense. It's like me throwing a ball in the air and the ball is floating further away from me instead of falling down due to the gravity. It's like it's like the opposite world.
yeah. Yeah, I think I don't know. The only the funny thing about MK11, just kind of because I want to put some pros out there. is that the only real things I can think of that make MK11 kind of traditional is that they do have, like, depending on the characters you're playing, like if I'm playing Katana versus Johnny, that's heavily footsie based.
Mhm.
Like that's, like, clearly you can see how, Johnny is gonna whiff punish Katana, Katana can whiff punish Johnny with back two, stuff like that. And it does teach you those things, like it teaches you footsies, depending on the matchup. It'll also teach you, what's the other one? I forgot. I just had it.
I think that kind of playstyle allows you to analyze the opponent and actually having a mind game going on instead of being like a Jackie player and go like full bulldog mode and never let go of his leg.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
there's no mind game. Like basically Jackie players are like this. I'm gonna learn my frame data. Okay, I'm just gonna spam this move after this. This guarantees me for having this turn after pressing this button. Now I can stagger for this long, so my turn ends. So he's just gonna poke me back, then I can do my shit all over again, and then he will die to 80 million% chip damage because he's forced to block anyway, and Innerest has prevented me from doing anything else. So I'm just gonna abuse that shit over and over again. That's how the game works.
Well, yeah. Well, the big thing is, like, I think the big problem is you give Sub-Zero an overhead and a low, right? But then you give him an 11 frame slide, and he's reversaling Scarlet, on punishes on everything she does. Like, how fucked up is that? Like, I'm sorry, but like I can't think of another word than that. Like, how can you give a character 50/50s, but then you give them an 11 frame slide that punishes everything Scarlet will do ever? So now Scarlet has to get in, but then her buttons are shit when she gets in. And then he has like 50/50s. And he has an auto shimmy. So it's like, what? Like, it just doesn't, to me, it doesn't make any sense. Like, sometimes it just feels, especially with certain characters, lower tier characters, you don't know what they're supposed to be doing on the stage. Like, what are they supposed to be doing? Like, I always tell people, Katana versus Jackie is like, Jackie always wins that matchup because what is Katana supposed to be doing? She's horrible up close and she can't outzone Jackie. Jackie's going to get in. So it's like, what? There's no advantage there, And that's kind of, I think that's been the biggest problem. I feel like because of the lack of archetypes in this game, it's been much harder to kind of grasp that competitive side from character to character. But then you'll get characters like Liu Kang versus Katana. Clearly, Liu Kang does very good up close there. Katana has a little bit more range on him, is a little bit better at zoning. So that matchup is fun. Or Katana versus I'm just using my character because, she's the best example I can use because I played the most with her. But like Katana versus Johnny, like you can clearly tell the footsies there. Katana's better up, or they're both actually really good at footsies. They both zone very decently. Johnny has a little bit more of an edge, but it's still fun and enjoyable, and you can compete, right? Even Melina versus Johnny is better, because at least like when Melina gets in, she's got better mix-ups than Johnny does. So it's just like those things work, but then you look at some of the other characters and it's like, why does Sub have all of this? Why does Cetrion have all of this? But then you don't want to take those things away because then it makes the game more boring. So then the game has an identity crisis and everything just goes in a circle and you just don't know how you want the game to play. Do you want to play more like MKX? Or do you want it to be more MK11 but more grounded as a fighting game? Like, what,
Well,
and I think,
basically, like I don't want to sound rude or anything, just that maybe the franchise is maybe in the right hands, as in like people or the designers or the producers not really knowing what they're doing. Like basically, they're not thinking about like. Of course, there'll always be certain matchups. It's inevitable, but as you just kind of made the conclusion on your own, there's no like real balance. There's no, you know, the
yeah.
there's always should be like a one tool for each character to deal with a certain playstyle. Of course, it shouldn't prevent like or completely shut the other character down, but you know, it has something that you can use once in a while. I just think like the game is the way it is because the people who have the IP in their hands made it this way. So ultimately, we should be blaming the designers or the producers for actually making the game how it is. And we didn't program or design it. I didn't, you didn't, no one else has. So
Yeah,
maybe
I
we
I could see that.
maybe we should be like looking at Miss or Mister or whatever she is, Brown back over there, and I'll pay her a little visit, have this conversation, because I want to know what's going through their minds when they're developing characters. Uh, you know, applying some sort of playstyles that they're using. We don't know what's like going through their minds. Uh, I have like the idea they kind of just want to have like every single bit of like every world, but they just can't have like one straight line of saying, okay, this game should be played this way, but we are just gonna implement some aspects of this, but they just want everything like in one game, and that just doesn't work in my opinion.
Yeah, well, it would be. I think it's Pablo that would be the guy that you would, or because I think he's the one who does the balancing. I don't know if he does the character designs,
I
but
honestly
yeah,
have the idea that he's like looking at Twitter, complaining Melina not included, Melina not included, people complaining of Melina. Okay, let's include her into the game. Okay, next complaint. Oh yeah, Melina is not as good as we wanted to this and that. Okay, okay. Setrin too broken, too many complaints. Okay, let's give up on the game and let's move on.
yeah, yeah. Well,
I kind of have that impression, to be honest, like at least communicate with us. It has been a year almost without zero communication. Nothing. No podcast, nothing, no Stephanie Brownback, no communication manager, whatever. Coming on the screen saying this and this are our plans. We are doing this update, or we are just working on the next installment. At least we know where we stand, right? But there's zero communication.
yeah. My only thing I can think of is that they just saw the community was upset and everyone was kind of asking for different things, so they didn't really want to, I don't know, stir the pot. That's the only thing I can think of off the top of my head.
Princess Bill, this kind of bullshit, like no one has access to the office, everyone has media to communicate with each other. I've just I've just spent hours watching E3 yesterday and today. Like the Marvel game that was a disaster, the Avengers one that was a disaster. They are updating the game or releasing new content in order to improve the game. Like NRS is doing nothing. Like they aren't even typing a memo or an email or like even a tweet saying you're looking into this or you're planning to do this. There's nothing. Like literally nothing.
Yeah, I actually have a statement, a kind of hypothesis on that, but I want to catch up with the chat before I kind of speak. So, let me just go back. So, Anaxis was dissing fighting games. He's saying shooters and RPGs are meta. Yeah, we've always known that. Shooters and RPGs just have way more money pumped in and a way bigger community. So I totally agree. Sonya and Rain, footsies, free throws. Yeah, Reigns has ridiculous dash speed that can't be checked. High damage slide. Oh, he's talking about Sub-Zero. Alex says, "What's up, Ops? What's up, Alex? Congratulations on that second place of that offline tournament on yesterday. I'm sorry I missed it. I am totally sorry I missed it. I totally told you I would watch, and it is my bad. I didn't realize. I thought it was today, and I was like, shit, I'm not gonna be able to see it today, so I'll watch the VOD. But I'll watch it back if I can. But congrats, dude. That's awesome." And then Princess Pearl says hi to Alex, and we're talking about the Office thing. So let me kind of catch up with that a little bit. So my thing about that is, I think I have a sneaking suspicion that some people signed NDAs or something where they can't talk about like changing the game, or they can't like talk about what's going on with the game because they don't know for sure what's going to change. I have a sneaking suspicion that that's what's going on. Like there's certain things that like they cannot do. But and that would kind of excuse like the NRS team, right? Because if WB is holding the strings, then there's really nothing, NRS can really do. They have to kind of listen to what WB tells them to do, But that's just an assumption. I could be completely wrong. Maybe they're just not talking to us. Maybe they just want the game to be the way it is. Maybe they're just tired of people complaining about the game and they've given up on it. I have no idea, But I'm just kind of being positive, trying to stay positive on it because I just feel like this is very unusual of NRS. Like, I've never seen this before. They used to tell us all the changes and everything that was coming, and like now they've kind of completely changed since the pandemic. So I don't know if it's like the pandemic just changed everything, and then, WB, with this new merger and everything, maybe that changed things too. I don't know. I just know I'm going to be playing a different game while it's happening, at least until we get more news. But Alex says, I lost to Spawn matchup today and I found out how to win it. Offline's making me want to lab more. Yeah, that's awesome. Labbing, a lot of you're gonna learn a lot labbing. That's all I'm gonna say. Like, I've learned weird hitbox issues and stuff that I can exploit with labbing. So, but I guess the trick is to like balancing labbing and playing for real, because that's the problem I've always had. I've labbed too much personally. Some people lab not enough, some people lab too much. I'm the one who probably labs too much.
I mean, you can lab, but there is in some cases you can lab for hours. There you have like only limited options as to what you can do. And
Yeah, that's true. Alex plays Jackie though, so he probably has a solution. I mean, Jackie most likely has a solution. Like, if you still want to play MK11, play the top 5. That's what I recommend to people. You'll be playing a different game.
Against Jackie is that you just need to spend you need to like have attention or have an eye on her meter and knowing like how much meter she has left, and then you can try to anti-air her like a bionic bounce thingy.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you just have to eat everything and kind of hope that she won't throw you too much.
Yeah, that's one thing I used to abuse her throws with. But the mistake I would always make is I would try to down 2, and she reaches back. She reels back when she throws. So you have to punish with a stand 1. I'd always fuck that up. I'd always fuck that up. I was so, like, it was so ingrained in my brain to down 2 because everyone does it. But
it's annoying to fight characters such as Devora or Aaron Black due to their reach, or Joker.
Oh, you're talking about Liu Kang?
Yeah. Or Cabal. Everything with long reach is a hard matchup. You can zone, but there's only so much zoning you can do. It's not like zoning with a pushback or anything. So they just are gonna tank the hits, move in, tank the hits, move in until they have like moved completely in, and then you just have to guess for your life.
Yeah, my problem was always I have to down 4 low fan, so it was the other way around. If I was up close, I had to like get them off of me, get them back in mid range, or I was gonna lose to like a 9 frame down 1.
It's not like I'm Cetrion and I can TP or like do a Raiden thing, jump, do the Superman thing and get over the corner and be safe and like, tada, you won't catch me anymore.
Yeah, that was one thing that was a little... I feel like a lot of Katana players didn't do enough. You can kind of jump and square wave out of the corner. I don't see that very often. Because if you catch people off guard, you could actually do it and they won't have time to... I mean, some people can punish you with like really quick advancing specials, but if they're pressing a button, there's a chance that you won't get punished, so... That is kind of something I thought was really interesting. A lot of Katana players don't do as often, I guess, but kind of going back to MK11 and MKX. So you said you wanted MK11 to play, kind of have a more fast-paced gameplay like MKX. Would you keep the run button in? Because that's the one thing I do not like. I'm not a huge fan of the run button. But I kind of want to hear what you have to say about it.
Maybe get rid of the run button, but at the same time make sure you can actually get it into the zone and not have like a unlimited pushback, like let's say for me keep on hammering on this character, but like Satrion does. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen like Ava, you know her, right?
Yeah.
I've seen her beat people with Satrion. I mean, like in the end of the day, you're controlling the character and still your own accomplishment of beating that player. But at the same time, she's like teabagging like matchups like against the Baraka that even sorry for my language, even a chimpanzee can like accomplish. Like, and I'm just like rolling my eyes every single time.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Like normally I try to be neutral, but I had to laugh at that teabagging of Baraka.
Yeah,
I could never do that. I'm sorry. I couldn't bring it to teabagging Baraka. I just couldn't.
I've seen her like
no matter how much
at many online tournaments, like in the Diddle Dome. She's hosting her own tournaments right now. She's also participating like in Fintus tournament, like Femme Fatale or something. There's been like a case that a person pretended to be, basically it was a tournament only for like female players, right? And there was this one guy pretending to be a female, but was actually the boyfriend of the
I heard about that
woman who was supposed to be competing. So he took her place without knowing. And yeah, everything was like all right and settled, and she got like disqualified. But then again, you have Ava. She just find it necessary to challenge him again and then teabag him. I'm like, if everything is settled, why do you have to like put extra oil or like put extra salt in his eyes to you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think
she kind of has this mentality which I find, I sometimes believe that she thinks that she's like superior to everyone else, like while she's playing Cetrion, and Diddle always like jokingly says, well, Ava without Cetrion is like driving a car without gas, you know? Like, I mean, using such a powerful character, it's like you holding a gun and I'm trying to beat you with my fist, you know? It's like that kind of a matchup. Like, you're gonna win unless you magically somehow miss point blank range and it can punch you in the face or something, you know? It's like the same thing against the Baraka. Like,
I think
you have a Cetrion, you have better movement, you can TP, you have boulders, you have everything, and then you teabag him. I'm like, seriously.
Well, I honestly, the big thing, what it really comes down to, honestly, is I think I've always said this about players who use top tier characters. Like, it always comes down to, like, there's gonna be a new fighting game that comes out, and that character's not gonna be in the game, and they're gonna have to learn something completely different. And this is one of the main reasons I think NRS players are probably. And it makes sense now, the more and more I think about what Foxy has said, because he said this a long time ago, and I didn't believe it. I was like, what are you talking about? But then I thought about it, like, philosophically, and he said that MK players are probably the most adaptive players you would ever meet, because if they go and play another fighting game, they have to learn very quickly. And if you think about it, that's true, because NRS games aren't even similar to each other. You know, even Injustice isn't the same as Injustice 2. Like, Injustice 2 isn't the same as Injustice 1. So, the thing is, you know, unless those players continue to play the same character in the same game, they're gonna have to move to the next MK game. So, we'll just see what happens, you know, when said person moves, you know, off Cetrion to MK12 or the new Marvel game or Injustice 3, you know, so it's one of those things that, and this is one of the main reasons I actually built my channel to be a improvement channel in fighting games. Originally, that's what I built it for, because I kind of understood that fundamentally. Like, you know, I could be the best player in the world, but if I can't adapt and if I can't like get better over time, like it's not really gonna mean anything. Like I'm gonna have my fame and glory. I'm not saying that Ava's not a good player. I'm just saying that if this was the case, like if I have like my fame and glory during this certain amount of time, and then I go and like play a completely different game, or I play offline. That's another thing I've mentioned to a lot of players. Like I just feel like online and offline are just way different. Like online carries some players that shall not be named, but that's just how I've kind of felt. Like there's a lot of characters that I lose to, and I just feel like I wouldn't lose to them offline. Like I go to practice mode, and I don't have any problems with them, you know, blocking any of their stuff in practice mode. But then you got lag online, so some of their stuff becomes real, you know. So like those things, like I feel like once the atmosphere changes, those players they're gonna be challenged, so they're gonna have to make a decision. Like, do they want to continue to play, you know, the best character in this game, or are they going to move over to where all the other players are playing and test and see if they're actually as good as they think they are? You know what I mean? So, you know, things like that, I just feel like they might, I'm not saying that they are temporary, but there's a possibility they could be. And if they were temporary, then we'll see it in the next game. And I've always said this, like, this is one of the main reasons, like, I remember when I was playing shooters, like, it was the same thing. Like, people would use the FAMAS in, like, Black Ops 1 and the AK-74U in Black Ops 1, and I would use this shitty-ass gun, you know, on console. Obviously, my aim's not as good on PC, so it's a completely different story there. But, like, the way I got really good at Call of Duty on console was using the shitty gun, because once I went and played the next COD, I had learned how to use, you know, how to adapt without using the best thing there. You know, I had learned my character, or not my character, I had learned, you know, how to play effectively and how to flank people and how to react and how to listen to footsteps and all that stuff. I had learned all those fundamentals in those types of shooters, and they had carried to the next game. And I was still good no matter what gun I used. I could pick up a pistol and pick someone off very easily on console, you know. And the only way I learned that was by not using the best gun, you know, by not using the most broken things. And I just feel like that's one of the main reasons. Like, people tell you to pick high tier, but I just don't see how that helps you. Like, unless you pick what you actually enjoy playing. And the reason why I tell people to pick, you know, why you should play what you enjoy playing is because usually when you play what you enjoy playing, you learn better fundamentals that way. Instead of just picking high tier and then, like, you know, like, I remember
learned not to listen what people are saying. I've always like gone on my own instinct, you know? Like,
yeah,
if
exactly.
like I've played Counter-Strike, a shooter, for so many years. Like I've played 1.6 Source, CS:GO now. There are also things that I dislike about each version, and I compare to them. But it's like you just like told me like a few moments ago that this player X won't be as good as, for example, if you were to play Mortal Kombat and then he switches over to Tekken or Street Fighter because of his bad fundamentals, right? Like it's like, I mean, even though they're like all fighting games, they are a different genre of fighting games, right? So it's maybe like a bit hard to make that comparison, you know, like compare him in MK than to compare him in Tekken or something, because it's a whole different game, a whole different play style. Not
Well,
only that, not only that, just told me that like you learned all the fundamentals in a shooter game by using a worse gun, like using your sound for the footsteps, etc.
yeah.
But I mean, like shooting games are like more based on reflexes and partially aim. Of course, the aim has to be there, but it's more of like a muscle memory thing as well, like controlling your spray pattern. And you cannot like compare an AK-47 in CS:GO and compare it into Battlefield or Call of Duty, because The recoil is different, the weapon is different, even though it has the same name. So it's kind of to make that comparison, but I get what you mean, though.
Well, I I personally don't agree with that because the thing that I learned when I played shooters was if you didn't know how to control the recoil, you needed to find a different way to eliminate your enemy. So a good example is, if let's say I pick up like an AK-47, right, or something like that, and I clearly cannot control the recoil. Well, obviously I'm not going to win a firefight and a mid-range fight because I can't control the recoil. So I need to find a more effective way to kill the enemy without getting in a mid gun or a mid-range firefight, right? So that might be flanking them, that might be sitting in a corner and waiting for them to pass by. Yeah, I know it's camping, but if I'm playing the objective, it doesn't matter. But anyway, or it might be outsmarting them with flash grenades, or just outsmarting them in general, making them think I'm going one direction when I go a different direction. So sometimes, like, adaptation, like, it always comes down to adaptation, in my opinion. Like, you can, and this is one of the big reasons why I think that Foxy said what he said about fighting games and NRS players, because we've had to play vastly different fighting games. So if people can't adapt and they move on to the next fighting game, then it's going to show, And it's one of the main reasons that I think a lot of people complain about NRS games overall, because, like, they find that maybe they can't adapt, and then it makes it easy to blame the game. Granted, sometimes some of those things are some of those criticisms are valuable, and it kind of gets lost in the mud. It gets a little bit gray, but it makes sense when you think about why NRS games are complained so much, because they're just vastly different than each other. And some people adapt better and some people don't. And I fully admit that I didn't adapt to MK11 as well as I could have. So, but that's kind of what I was going at. Like, that's kind of what I was getting at, is that, like, if you put yourself in bad situations, or you put yourself in situations where you have to adapt, then you generally do. But if you have the best gun or you have the best character, then usually what ends up happening is you don't get better, because you don't really have to learn the inner workings of the... Yeah, you don't have to learn the inner workings, or you don't have to get better at reading your opponent. Because another thing I kind of wanted to touch on, another point that you mentioned, was fighting games don't transfer over each other. They actually do.
I'm not saying that.
From my experience.
I'm just what I wanted to say is, like, you told me, well, if this player is good at MK11, I want to see him in a different game. But I find it, like, kind of hard to compare games, like, two
Oh, I see
fighting
what you're
games,
saying.
as in, like, they're not completely identical. Of course, they're just, like, fundamentally wise, they're gonna have some same traits, like playing footsies and stuff. But there are also other mechanics, other characters, other
Yeah.
movesets. Like, it like there were players that were great at, like, look at Tom Brady. He was great at MKX, but he kind of dropped MK11 immediately. I mean, he
Oh, I
also
see.
admitted
Okay.
he also admitted, like, not being great at MK11 because he kind of couldn't really adapt to the game. But yeah,
Okay, I see what you're saying. So you're saying, like, well, I just want to make sure I'm getting this right. So, you're saying, like, someone like Ava, for example, let's say, like, she went and played MK12. Since MK12 is vastly different than MK11, then obviously,
it's not it's
there
not a
you
guaranteed
can't really
thing.
compare them.
Yeah, it's not a guaranteed thing that she will do as well or even better. She might do better, she might do worse.
Okay.
It's like comparing, an apple to a peach or something. Like, it's like a two different games, and you're like, I want to see him in this game. Yeah, well, he might be great at MKX, but he might suck in MK11. But does that make him a bad player? I mean, not really. I mean, it makes him a great player in MKX, but it makes him a bad player in MK11. So, what kind of a point are you trying to prove here? I mean,
Well,
is he a bad fighting player in general? If he's, like, bad at one game or good at the other? I mean,
Foxy was saying that I think he was saying how he and Dragon came up with the idea that if you haven't placed in 3 months or you haven't done well in 3 months, then it's not as relevant anymore. I don't know, like, cause that's something that I actually think is really
From my
important to talk
perspective,
about.
though, I mean,
Yeah, that's
there are a lot
exactly
of
what I was
people,
gonna say.
there are a lot of casuals just buying the game, just want to have a good time and have like, I'm gonna exaggerate. They have like 5K hours just playing online, not labbing and all. Or you can use those 5K hours, of which 2K hours you actually spend labbing and 3K hours actually like playing matches online. You're gonna clearly gonna see the difference. If you never lab, of course, you'll never see yourself improving. I mean, your execution, your character may be better because it has become muscle memory, but you're never gonna figure out how to, like, for example, punish Aaron Black's slide on block, for example, or how to punish Liu Kang when he does his forward 4-3 into his cancel into the fireballs, and you can punish him afterwards. I mean, if you never got the knowledge, then yeah, you can never improve. That's kind of, I mean, there's so many angles to look from or to like look at. It's kind of, I don't know. He's just like, it's like a general statement that he made. Like, I don't know. It's not really that precise in my opinion.
Yeah, well, it comes down to like it makes me wonder like all of these like how like it gives it brings a kind of nihilistic a kind of attack on just fighting games overall, because if every fighting game is different, but sometimes you can't adapt to certain fighting games, then what's the point? Like, you'll play MK11 for like 2 years, 3 years, and then become irrelevant because the next game you couldn't adapt to, you know? Like, it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of weird because I want to believe that if you're a good enough player, you'll be able to adapt to every fighting game. But even I was struggling, and I still struggle with MK11, MK11 was one of the first games that I stopped playing entirely. Like, there's never been a fighting game where I was just like, I'm done. And MK11 was the first one. And I can still recall the day, too. It was when I read an up 2 from an Aaron Black, and it hit horizontally. And I was like, oh, cool, okay, so I actually walked back to punish him because I knew he was gonna wake up buttons because everyone does it. Like, everyone does something on wake up. And I was just kind of done, so.
You read the situation, you guess correctly, but still get punished.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened, and that's when I finally decided that it was,
That's the
it was
end of the
donezo.
line.
But that's what I mean, is like, like, the thing is, do you just, I guess, is it just one of those things where you just play a game, and if you really like it, you play it for that amount of time, and then if the next game comes and you don't like it, you don't play it, you wait till the next game, and then you play that next game, and then if you like that one, like, how does it, like,
The
I
only
always
thing
wanted to
that's
believe you just adapt every time, You just
the
pull a, sorry?
the only thing I'm gonna say is like if you wanna play MK11 for its consistency, just don't. Um,
You mean
like
MK?
yeah, MK11, just don't like. In general, if you wanna play a consistent game, guess what? There's no real consistent game on the market, frankly enough.
You mean,
Because
are you talking about the franchise or the,
in general, and like I
yeah, okay.
started from MK because MK11 is not consistent due to the hitboxes, right? Like
Yeah.
sometimes it will whiff, sometimes it wouldn't, so there's no consistency. But like every game is kind of like that way, Like they're not always like look at FIFA. Like if you shoot at an open net, it should always go in, right? Even if you don't put that much power behind a ball whatsoever. And suddenly, in the exact same scenario, the striker is just gonna chip the ball over. I didn't do anything differently. I
Yeah.
mean, the problem is games are made by humans, and we humans aren't perfect either. Therefore, there will always be bugs whatsoever in every single game. But nevertheless, I agree that MK11 has some huge bullshit going on with hitboxes, like being to duck under my back one, which is a mid, but
Yeah.
for some reason you can low profile it.
I
For
can
some reason,
I
some
can
can
you want me to hurt you real bad here?
like a
Katana
giant.
can duck your back one and stand one punish. Full combo punish you. I've done it in the lab. I've done it in game too, actually. I did it
That's why
against
that's why I
Pancake.
hate female hitboxes. I really do. Like, and also like a giant
She
like
could
gear.
duck a mid, dude. Like, what the fuck? So
A,
dumb.
a giant character like Gearus can duck under Kano's overhead,
Yeah.
but you can't. He cannot do that. Like, where's the logic? And those are the things that can kind of infuriate me.
Oh, trust me, I get it, dude. I get it. I mean, I'm not apologizing for MK at all. The MK11, I will give it that. I mean, it has been the closest to the footsie fighting game we'll ever get. I don't know if they're gonna continue to go that route. I wish they would. Having played a little bit of Street Fighter V so far, I really like the footsie game. But
It
it's
was
more
a
unique.
fantasy game until they released the upgraded Jackie and until they released the Cabal, the custom variation part. I think
Yeah,
the
and Fujin
I,
too.
I think the custom variation part was the
Downfall.
last. No, was like the last. Also that, yeah, but was kind of the last resort of NRS trying to hype up the game again, like bring new life or like a fresh new air to the game, but it actually made it worse. And
Yeah,
I was watching Rewind 2 days ago, and he told me in the chat that it's a 50-50 matchup between Cabal and Liu Kang, and he was playing Kerbalicious. Guess how many games he has won with Liu Kang against his Cabal?
I don't know.
It was literally 210 for Kerbalicious.
Uh,
Even though I know that Rewind is a better player, like, or he's like has more knowledge, I think.
yeah,
And Kerbalicious didn't really mix anything up. He kept the same thing: air gas, backdash, back one, going for the crushing blow. Then his overhead, his string, his 1-2 in the overhead or whatever it is. Then he jumps, cross jumps, does the air gas again, like the typical Cabal player, right?
yeah.
And what is he able to do? Nothing. And then he says this is a 50-50 matchup. And I'm thinking, why would you think it's a 50-50 matchup? Because you can zone for a while, for like 2 seconds before he's in your face?
Yeah.
I, I mean, I've learned like from all the MK11 pro players, they're really great at the game, but sorry for my language, but I find them to be spouting a lot of bullshit a lot of time, knowing like claiming some certain matchups are like 50-50 when if you just have clearly a brain, I don't need to have like a college degree, but just looking at the screen that this isn't a fair matchup.
Well, I think the problem with that matchup is simply the anti-air issue, which I've been complaining about for forever now. I mean, here's a good example. I'm just gonna throw this out here right now. So I went to play Street Fighter. I've been playing Street Fighter for the past month or week, right?
Mm-hmm.
Guess how many times I've been jumped on?
A lot, I
Twice.
guess. It's nice.
Twice.
But
I've
yeah,
anti-aired every other jump in.
because I've heard that Street Fighter really has a button to anti-air, or like it really
Exactly.
has to do, and
Yeah.
MK is
I don't get
that.
jumped on. I don't get jumped on because as soon as I read the jump, I fucking anti-air. Like, there's nothing else to it. Like, I just read the jump, and I mean, I've heard some characters have like dive kicks and teleports, but that's part of any fighting game. The thing is, like, if you can read a jump altering move and you can punish it, that's a different story. But if the jump in altering move is safe, then like the guess is on you. Like now you have to block. You know, like let's say someone does meter burn and buzzsaw. If you block that, he's safe. If you try to anti-air, you get punished. But, you know, teleports, if you block the teleport, if it's not a canceling teleport, it's a full combo punish, right? That's fair, because at least, you know, if you read, okay, he's gonna do normal jump, I can anti-air, you're good. If you read that, okay, he's gonna do a jump into teleport, all I have to do is block, then you're good. But the thing is, like, the problem is, there's jump ins that are just safe. So you have to guess between is he going to do a normal jump in or just a safe, jump in. And then that's when you start getting jumped on. And then on top of that, you've got the jump kicks. You got things like Katana's jump to, Cabal's jump to, where it hits like a jump kick. Like, it's just ridiculous. But as soon as I went over to Street Fighter, yeah, like, Laura stand 2 anti-airs from a certain distance. And you can dash I think the jump-ins that are closer, you can dash forward and they'll whiff. So it's like, it's crazy. Like, and her anti-air isn't even the best anti-air in the game. Like, there's better anti-airs that, like, are completely invincible.
You don't want to know how many times I got like infuriated facing Shang Tsung and my muscle
You get jump kicked, huh?
Yeah, and it's like seriously, like
Oh,
visually,
man.
visually, my punch is going through his foot, but I'm
Yeah, but he
actually
still
being
hits you,
kicking.
yeah.
And then the crazy low skill Shang Tsung will just constantly cross jump over you, and he's being rewarded for it, even though he's just pressing buttons.
Yeah, yeah. And the funny thing is I'm pretty sure that's an OS into lift and skulls and up skulls. I'm pretty sure those both OS into that. So literally they get a free combo if you try to anti-air. Yeah, it's dumb. You can block it early, but like the game teaches you to block early jumping. Like, it's just so weird. It's just
What I
so
also
weird.
hate is like I finally open the character up, and then I do like my combo or whatever, and then I use the fucking interactable when I don't want to. You know?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how this I'm very curious of, because obviously we're both pro traditional MK or traditional fighting games for that matter. I'm wondering what's going to happen with a lot of the players that jumped into this game.
Also,
I feel
also
like
there was like, sorry,
sorry, what were you saying?
there was like today I actually played for funds, right? And
Yeah.
I was facing this Aaron Black, and he was like teabagging me like mid screen because he just could keep me away with his down for one move, then can keep an entire character away. And I'm like, okay, yeah, you must think you're the better player because you have the better tools, right? I'm like, yeah. Like, I didn't mind it that much losing because I was like, yeah, he just has a better character. But the thing that makes you a better character by using a character that counters the other one is like, yeah, keep enjoying this moment until you face someone who uses like a Setron and you get like totally obliterated. Like, I look at the mentality in this game sometimes, like I really do. But yeah, go on.
Yeah, well, it's that combined with it's definitely that combined with like
And there's
just kind of
nothing you
how
can
MK's
do
always
about it
been.
because you have limited tools. There's nothing you can do about it. You just have to endure the whole process. And that's why I
Yeah.
find MK11, and it's still surprising why it lost to Super Smash Bros. Like the title of the best fighting game of the year. I mean, if you see what kind of bullshit you have to put up with.
Well, I think it's more of like I think those titles are usually given more casually, but I do think that we need more tools for our characters because again, it always comes down to like certain matchups. It's like, what am I supposed to be doing here? When
Mhm.
I get in, this character still has good tools to deal with me getting in. Why?
Like, you don't want to know how many times I think if you look at the Twitch chat and you look at those really big channels like MK wise, right? Like Ninja Killers, Aquaman, Rewind, you name them all. Like 90% of the times, I legitimately think that they're like all a bunch of a pack of sheeps just repeating what the streamer is saying without any thought behind it, like put behind it. They're just like repeating what they're saying without like actually realizing what's going on. And sometimes it comes across they're like retards. They're saying like, yeah, Liu Kang needs a nerf now. Like Liu Kang struggles against like half of the cast on paper. If you purely look at his frame data, he looks OP, right? Because he's like save on the majority of his strings.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you need to like you can't use it. The frame data is irrelevant if you can't get in. That's the issue. If you can't get in, what is the frame data good for? No, nothing.
Yeah.
It's like, you may have the best gun in the world, but if you don't have the bullets or you don't know how to aim, then yeah, like you
It
can have
doesn't
the best.
matter.
Yeah, and it's the same thing. Like, and that's what I hate about this game is, and like we have mentioned many times before in this podcast, is there's no balance. One character completely counters the other one, and there's nothing you can do about it. And then you're forced to learn a different character that you don't like, and then
Well,
you have
that
this.
definitely has to do with the custom system. I think it's because it's a lack
It
of archetypes in the game.
I think it's already like I think it was the pre-custom as well. Like there were some bad matchups in general. Like
No,
no,
what I mean is the custom system overall is bad. Like because you look at Garrus, Garrus has like he's like a grappler, but then he has like really strong zoning. Like it doesn't make any sense. Like none of it makes any like when you look at characters, like their design is all over the place. Like Cetrion is a zoner, quote unquote zoner, but then she has a teleport and the best neutral in the game. Like it just doesn't make any sense. There's too many things going on with the character.
it should be like a complete zoner and give her like limited tools to deal with neutral, but don't make her better at someone who's specialized in neutral. Like
Exactly.
there should be like two sides of a coin, right? Either be a complete zoner or either be like a neutral slash rushdown character, but don't make like a hybrid out of it, aka Satrium, and you know,
Well, I would actually it's kind of funny. I'm gonna throw my character out here. I would actually say that a character like Katana is a good example of a hybrid character because she can't completely outzone like characters like Liu Kang.
Mhm.
And when Liu Kang gets in, Liu Kang fucks her up. Like it's not even like a competition when Liu Kang gets in. Like she's got to get him off of her. But Cetrion, the problem is like Cetrion
She
has like a
does
stand one that has no hitbox, and then she's got like she can just keep hitting you with tornado, and then she's got a crazy down four. Like it's just I don't know,
and then
like
you win
her
the
version of
game against
hybrid.
Baraka, and then you teabag him.
I don't know. I didn't see that, so I can't really comment on that. But
No,
I will
no,
say
no.
that is kind of funny because that's
The
like
only reason
9-1. I'm pretty sure that's like 9-1 Cetrion.
the
That's
only reason
definitely
I'm
9-1.
mentioning Eva is because I watch her regularly, and it's like the only Satrium I'm really watching. But I
You
don't know.
trying to learn from her, or trying to learn her like how to counter Cetrion, or
Not really learn. It's just like this is gonna sound funny, but I have like this a hate slash like thing with her. On one hand, I like her watching her play and stuff and hang around with the crowd and everything.
yeah,
And on the other hand, I think of her as being like this, you know, I have the imagination that she puts herself on a high pedestal and that she, like, even in chat, and Diddle mentioned this as well, but jokingly, they should only respond to people that are well known. But like a nobody like me and you, if you were to like whisper, like if you were to like tag her in the chat and type a sentence, she wouldn't even bother to like reply when someone else would, and that's kind of the mentality that kind of disturbs me or bothers me, like,
uh,
being thinking that you're too good, and you know I
mm.
mean, she's not like, I'm not saying that she's a horrible person or anything, but maybe it's just her, to me it kind of comes across as arrogance.
I haven't had that many interactions with Ava. All of mine have been frankly positive so far. So, um, I did play her once though. I played her Melina versus Cetrion. It was pretty hard for Melina. It was
Oh yeah,
not.
nothing. The only thing you can do is
the
maybe
well,
time yourself.
the funny thing about that matchup though was the only thing I was really struggling with when I did play Ava was the jump kick. I was able to try to get in and start trying to loop her, but the jump kick kept kind of throwing me for a loop because I kept trying to down to it and I kept getting hit by the jump kick. I'm not saying I'm better than Ava. I'm just saying like that's the thing that I noticed that like I was struggling with the most. But I don't remember if this was. Oh yeah, it was. It was. She had to be using Tornado then because Melina came out when they released customs. So. But yeah, I remember getting jumped at a lot and getting like jump kicked, and I was like, "Fuck, jump kicks, gotta love them." But that's the only experience I've had with her. And I've talked with her a little bit, but
I mean, she's not a horrible person, but I think she has like her moments that she can actually be brutal and be quiet.
Oh, I've had my moments. Rameets knows about that. I've had my moments where I'll beat a Jackie and I'll hold forward jump and 2 over and over again to let them know that all they do is jump at me to like start their offense because they don't know how to do anything else.
Like down 1 matches, I just like when I beat them and you have the finish him screen.
You start smashing down 1 over.
Yeah. like let me demonstrate how it's done properly, you know, like down, and then you
add a
can
little
see
few tea bags in there.
Then you can see like the triangle on your, you know, where the MS is being displayed, and like, oh yeah, they left the game. They're not happy about that.
Oh yeah.
I'm not the toxic player, but if someone is constantly pressing down 1, it's so annoying to play against, man. Like, and the game actually rewards you for doing it. Like,
my thing is like, I don't know. I don't really. So people get really upset about like the toxic mindset, the toxic like player and stuff. I get upset about it, but it always comes down to I don't really care what people do. Like if someone met me face to face, they wouldn't be doing that. They're just doing it because I'm on the other side of the internet and I'm a nobody as far as they're concerned.
And it feels safe in the living room.
Yeah, so like it just doesn't bother. I mean, I know a lot of people like get mad about what people do online, but like I just don't see how it matters. Like no one's getting hurt. You're teabagging me, like your character's going up and down on the screen. Like it's not. Why does it matter? Like
it kind of depends on your mood.
It's like a mindset thing.
And what kind of happened during the day, I guess, which can be like an accumulation.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying that because like a lot of people will be like, oh, you teabag, or oh, you do like taunts, you know, in the finish him screen. I'm like, yeah, I do. Who cares? Like, it's a freaking video game. No one cares. Like, it's not that big of a deal. Like, I wouldn't be doing that in their, you know, in front of them. Like, or they wouldn't be doing that to me in front of me if they saw me. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they would. I don't really care either way, but my whole point is like it's like not that big of a deal. People make it more of a deal than it needs to be. But like we're all human, we do stupid shit like that all the time for fun.
Yeah,
so
but it's more like a pride thing, isn't it? And you feel that your pride has been like, you know, has taken a hit or something, or your ego has taken a hit by.
It doesn't really matter. It's just like someone holding the analog stick down. I could put a rock on my analog stick; it wouldn't matter, right? Like. You'd be getting teabagged by no one. It would be a rock holding down the analog stick.
But that's the issue. If everyone were to think the same way, then there will be no world war, you know? So, I mean, there will always be people with different personalities,
that's
different
true.
mindsets, and
that is true.
For one person, it's hard to understand. That's not like, it's like meaningless, and for the other person, he feels like he's being insulted, and it's like dishonorable, and like, you know.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
I mean, if I like would give you the finger, you would either be like laughing about it, like I wouldn't mind, or you'll be like get upset and like why did you do
want
that?
to fight or something.
Yeah. Like there's so many people with different mindsets with different personalities. It's kind of hard to, you know.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I think what it might come down to is like you just kind of have to be steadfast in your values. So like if you're someone like me where it doesn't really bother me, if you have viewers that complain about it, you consider it and then be like, okay, no, this is a value that I feel like is not that big of a deal to me. So like if you're a viewer and you don't like it, that's your problem, kind of thing. Or maybe you think about it and you're like, you know what, no, I don't want to be known for someone who does that, so I'm just not going to do it. My viewer's right or something. I don't know. So yeah, you're kind of right there. Like it really just does depend on the person, or what you think about when it comes to playing online, I guess, or interacting online. But
Yeah, to
oh,
come back about the state of the game, I think it's done. So I think their last resort is gonna be come back 3 to make some revenue going on and release a new title, and I think that's it. That will be the curtain for NK11.
well, if they don't fix the game, if they don't, well, sorry, I shouldn't say it that way. If they
I mean,
don't add a
the game is
patch,
out for 2 years. The game is out for longer than 2 years. These problems have existed since the launch. Some of them haven't been fixed. They're just not gonna bother with it anymore. Like they
well,
aren't.
if they don't, I'm just gonna stay on Street Fighter, honestly. I mean, well, that's not true. I won't take the game as serious as I did when I started, 2,000 hours ago. Put it that way. That's probably the best way to put it, because I'm not going to ensure that I won't play it again. I probably will at some point, but I'm definitely going to take like other fighting games a little bit more seriously personally.
Also, it's easy for us to say that this game needs a whole rework or an overhaul or whatever. Like people don't realize like that they need one, a lot of time for this, two, they need the budget for it, and three, by the time they actually manage to implement everything, they'll be like, oh, this game feels outdated and I'm ready for something new. So I think in the end of the day, if they were to rework this game, it's going to be a financial loss for them, to be honest.
Yeah, well, they did add rollback to MKX. So, I mean, there is a possibility.
Yeah,
But
but it's not like
because
even
rollback
though
was like a complete overhaul to, the system.
even though they implemented that, the player base will never be as big as it was
Oh,
gonna
yeah, of
be in
course
the
not.
beginning. So
Yeah, of course not.
it's kind of stabilized a bit, like statistically wise, but that's just like a temporary solution just to milk some or to like give the game a bit longer of a lifespan. But that's what all it did eventually.
Yeah. That's
It's
true.
not like the game would like be relevant for 2 or 3 more years, you know.
Yeah, well, that was another thing, that me and Rex talked about, and hopefully I can get him on to talk about it again, is that I'm wondering if, because Street Fighter did this, where they supported the game for a long period of time, and they really changed it compared to what it was before the release, or during the release, because apparently like during release it was a very bad game, but now it's like much more solid. So I'm wondering if over time, like maybe they'll kind of make it kind of like that, like Rainbow Six or like Street Fighter, where they just update the games over time and then kind of change it and do, much better overhauls to the game. I don't know if they're going to do that. I personally don't think so, though. Like, I think that's a better option, but I don't think they're going to do it, because to me it seems more like they want to do combat packs. They want to, release combat packs, and like it's harder to, or they want to release combat packs and they want to release new games, because if they release a new game, you have to pay that certain amount and then you got to pay for the combat pack and everything. Unlike if you buy a game and then they just support it, then you just only have to pay for like the combat packs. So like I have a sneaking suspicion that they prefer to just kind of do a completely different game, so then that way you have to like, the casuals can buy the game again and, enjoy it a little bit and then buy the combat packs, and they kind of make their money that way. I think that's kind of like their, the
Marketing
way they,
strategy.
yeah, their marketing strategy. Exactly. I personally think the other way works better because that way you can kind of fine tune a game over time. So, for example, some of the things we were complaining about, like Cetrion, they could actually learn from their mistakes compared to just doing a completely different game and possibly putting in the same mistakes that they put in last time because they didn't learn from the game before. Because a good example is apparently in MKX, jump-ins were just as ridiculous as they are now. So they didn't really learn as well that jump-ins were ridiculous, and they just made them ridiculous again in MK11. So I just feel like it would be better if they just kept improving on a game instead of making an entirely new game, because then we're probably going to have the same problems again because they never learned from the game before.
Which is that Warner Brothers is interested in making the game relevant and not like just interested in making money.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it comes down to like I feel like it's because MK has always been more casual, or at least that's just kind of how I see it. I could be wrong, but I just feel like that's probably the case. Like they've just always been more casual, so as far as they're concerned, like they just want to make new games and kind of have like the flashy bells and whistles. But when it comes to the in-depth part, that's not as much of a concern to them.
It might be casual, but it's one of the most popular fighting games out there, together with Tekken and Street Fighter, I think. So
yeah.
But yeah, Street Fighter isn't really my thing. Like I've watched plenty of streams and I kind of fell asleep watching it. So
I've enjoyed Street Fighter so far. But granted, I'm playing a more offensive character. Yeah, guys, just want to let you know, I'm not just strictly a zoner. I played offense. I played offense in MKX. I played Scorpion in MKX. Hellfire, I did cancels.
who cares what they think, right? In the end,
Well,
they need to play what they enjoy.
yeah, I mean, I don't care. It's just like, I have a lot of people tell me that, like, oh, well, you just like zoning, zoning's so boring. And I'm like, dude, I've played multiple playstyles. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, the only one I haven't played is like the brawler / grappler that can't get in. Usually my grapplers are more hybrid. I generally choose
Everyone
not
has a
pure grappler.
fighting style that like suits him or her better than the other one. So
Yeah, that's true.
one person likes to lay his opponent down by zoning, the other one likes to get in their face and kinda, put pressure on them. So
Yeah,
or the other
some
person
like
just
throw loops, some like
like
footsies.
in between footsies and a little bit of zoning or whatever, just to like mix things up.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it all depends on just kind of, I don't know, what suits you really. So I did want to actually, do you still have time, or did you want to go ahead and, because we could definitely talk about your life improvement a little bit if you want to talk about that today, or we could talk about that maybe the next time we have you on, because I know you said like you only had a certain amount of time.
I can do like 10 more minutes or something.
10 more minutes? Okay.
Then it's like 4:45 in the morning for me.
So.
So.
Oh, okay, yeah. So let's just touch on that really quickly. So, Flaming Strike. So we did want to talk a little bit about how improving just in general, like not just fighting games, but just kind of life improving. Flaming Strike really worked hard to become fit, right? If I remember correctly.
Oh yeah, like when I met you guys, like you, Princess Pearl and everything, I kinda, was on the heavier side, like, build and everything, kind of weight.
Yeah.
So I decided to drop the weight and it has paid off. I feel fitter. I feel like my reaction time is like faster and everything. So it has been paying off. I feel like healthier. I eat healthier. So yeah, I can
Okay.
only recommend it to people who want to change their lives.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I personally myself have kind of been this, same way I've always been. I mean, on my streams, I'm not a health expert, but I've always talked about, just kind of like different, calories and stuff and how to intake, what type of foods that I eat and everything like that. And the big thing I think is important is um kind of something that a lot of people don't talk about, but there's certain foods you can eat that sometimes help with your reaction time, like you kind of mentioned. Two big ones that come to mind from some of the research that I did. Again, I'm not a health expert, but with spinach and eggs, apparently that helps your reaction time increase, even as you get older. And that, personally, since I've implemented that into my diet, that has like helped me get like much better at reaction time. Granted, my reaction time is not as good in fighting games as it is in shooters, which is kind of weird, but I don't know. It might have to do with neuroplasticity or something.
Or just because you know what to look for in a game, like in shooters, you know what to pay attention more, and in a fighting game, you're just more hesitant because you're not really knowing what to expect, and if you don't know what you're expecting, it's hard to react to. That's why it's a guessing game.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like, in a weird way, I feel like fighting games is a little bit more complicated too. Granted, the thing that I did notice, and this is why I stress, and this is actually why I brought all this up about improving health and stuff, is, if you improve yourself in everything, you do get better at stuff just out of everywhere. Like a good example is, even though I didn't like MK11 as much as I wanted to, the thing that I noticed is as soon as I got into Street Fighter, there were things like I knew were happening, and I had never played the game. Like I knew when someone was mashing on hit. I knew when someone was gonna jump at me. I knew when someone really didn't want to respect like what I was gonna do. And even though like I still lost because I didn't know what to do in those situations at that point, except for like the anti-air thing, I knew what was happening because I had played other fighting games, you know? And I think that kind of goes back to like, you should always continue to improve no matter what. Like you should always work on yourself, even when you don't like certain things, or even when you don't like certain aspects of the game or yourself or like how you play. That's like really important, you know? That's kind of my
It's a lot of
motivation.
like a lot of people want to work on themselves. It's just they sometimes think they don't have the energy for it, but they just don't have the mental aspect to actually, flip the switch and go for it.
Exactly, exactly. And that's that's the thing, is like to continue to improve, whether it be health, fighting games, shooters, work, school, whatever, like you just have to keep going for it and trying different things and learning what works for you. That's like the big thing I've noticed, is you have to figure out what works for you. Um I think that's really, really important, especially because, in my situation, training along with playing fighting games, when I was playing MK11, I didn't like MK11, so I had to find a new fighting game to play, so I could continue improving as a fighting game player. And that's what I mean by like kind of working around, like figuring out what might work for you. I think is like super important. And it's the same thing with like training, for a while I was injured and I had to work around an injury. And the way that I figured that out was, I had to modify my exercises, I had to eat differently, and I couldn't train as much. So like just figuring out ways to continue improving no matter what is like super important, I think. No matter what you're doing. And I think health is just another big aspect of that, personally.
Hmm.
So, well, Flaming Strike, did you have anything else to say about that, or?
I just, the only thing I want to say to people is that sometimes it seems impossible to achieve some goals and improve your life. Like, is it like either losing weight or getting in shape, or is it something else? You just have to take things step by step. It's like a slow process, and sometimes it's better to go slower than too fast, and to like, you know, hurt your body in the process or something. So that's all I can say. I just try to look at the long term and try to keep that vision in mind and try to keep motivated or stay motivated.
Yeah, exactly. Staying motivated, that's the big thing. Improving every day, figuring out how to get better at everything.
I rather like take 2 baby steps, knowing I'm doing it on a healthy way, than taking one giant leap and then having all the consequences afterwards.
Yeah. So I'm gonna touch on the chat one more time, and then we're gonna call it. So Blue is True. What's up, Blue is True? I don't think I've ever seen you in the chat. So hi. He says I'm cracked. I don't know what that means, but
Good to know, I guess.
Princess Pearl is talking about rewind stream. She dips in and out. Holiday was talking about Aaron Black players. Yeah, they're wild, especially with their ridiculous forward four that breaks neutral. And then yeah, Princess Pearl was talking about the matchup thing again. So okay, well, it was great having you, Flaming Strike, as always. We always seem to have very good chemistry when it comes to the podcast, so I'm definitely going to have you on again sometime, hopefully over something a little bit different.
Yeah,
but
sounds fine.
But it was great, and we're going to call it here. We've done about almost 2 hours. Thank you everyone who stopped by. I had a great time. I'm definitely going to be doing these podcasts again. It seems like a lot of people like them, so but I haven't decided yet on who's going to go on the next one. So just stay tuned. Watch out for my Twitter. Watch out for the Discords that I post in. And we will be live again soon. See you guys later.
Catch you later, guys.
Thanks again, Flaming Strike.
No problem. Struggle